It's just you, your running shoes, and the open road. Wind in your hair, stride for stride, floating across the land. For most of us, it's more like severe mental struggles, sore feet, flies in our eyes, struggling step after step, feeling like a bag of potatoes being slugged down the road. Running isn't all sunshine and rainbows when you first start off. Most of us haven't even felt the sensation of an easy run in our lives, not even to think about doing a full-on marathon. 42 kilometers of pure suffering is what that sounded to me when I first started off. The truth is, running doesn't come natural to everyone. Some of us need a little extra help to help us experience the full joy running has to offer. So in today's video, I'm going to compress all of my years of biomechanical and biokinetic studies into a few minutes. I'm going to give you a bunch of tips to help you enjoy running and how to prevent long-term injuries. So there are 5 main points that need to be addressed. Runner's posture, running shoes, overuse injuries, accessory exercises, and optimal nutrition for runners. So let's look at your typical elite level runner's posture. The first thing you'll notice is how open their chest looks. The key here is to not only pull your shoulders back and down, but to also extend your upper back to open up your chest. The second thing you might notice is your neck and shoulders starting to pain while you run. This could be due to your shoulders tensing up and your head being in a forward head position. So tuck your chin in ever so slightly and drop those shoulders down. The key to expending as little energy as possible when running is to slightly shift your center of mass just in front of your midline. This will help keep your momentum going forward. Another thing beginner runners often neglect is foot placement. When running, your foot strike should be underneath your center of mass. The reason for this is obvious, but not often noticed. If your foot placement is too far in front, you will basically be sticking that foot into the ground. This will result in the ground force acting in an opposite direction, equal in force, resulting in a negative energy transfer. And this will make you slow down with every strike. We should also consider which part of your foot is striking the ground first. Is it your heel, midfoot, or front foot? This primarily has an effect on where the most strain is put on the body. In simple terms, if you struggle with knee pain, you should be refraining to use a heel strike technique, rather use more of a midfoot or a front foot technique. On the other hand, if you struggle with calf pain, you should avoid running on the forefoot and rather move over to a more midfoot or heel strike technique. So basic runner's posture is open chest, shoulders back and down, upper torso slightly bent forward, and foot strike underneath your center of mass. This brings us on to the next point, running shoes. There are so many shoes to choose from. Which one is right for you? In my opinion, this is where you really shouldn't cheap out. Rather spend a little bit more money to get the right pair of shoes. A good biomechanics assessment of your foot will help you choose. Now, what do I mean with this? So most of us fall into one of 3 categories. We either have a neutral foot, overpronated foot, or oversupinated foot. You should be selecting a shoe appropriate for your foot structure. I can highly recommend that you go to your nearest running store and ask one of the knowledgeable people there to help you pick out the right running shoe. Overpronators, meaning people who have flat feet, needs more medial support, whereas oversupinators needs more lateral support. You also get shoes that are made for 5-kilometer distances and marathon distances. And shoes have a lifetime too. And this segues beautifully into our next talking point, which is overuse injuries. Overuse injuries such as sore hips, sore knees, sore Achilles tendons, or even shin splints all result from either poor running technique, inappropriate shoe selection, or insufficient recovery time between running sessions. If you're new to running, appropriate recovery time is crucial. You should not be going for a run if you're still sore from a previous session. And you should be making a point thereof to properly warm up your body before going for a run. When it comes to injuries, prevention is key. Spend at least 10 minutes after every running session statically stretching your calves, hamstrings, quads, and hip flexors. A good stretch session post-run could decrease your recovery time with up to 60%, according to recent studies. It needs to be said, however, that sometimes running technique isn't all about mind-muscle connection. Sometimes your faulty posture while running could be a result from a muscle strength imbalance. We can easily address these by doing a few accessory exercises to help us with our runs. My top 5 exercises for runners include bench step up high knees, single leg RDLs, jump squats, jump lunges, and single leg balancing drills. By adding these to your workout regime, you ensure unilateral strengthening takes place. Improved mind-muscle connection and explosive power gets improved on. The golden rule to remember when running is that progression is key. You should not be doing too much too soon. Training volume and distance should start low and build up gradually over time. Start off with a 1 kilometer jog and build up to a 5 kilometer. Predominantly do short distances and throw in a longer distance every now and again. Normal people don't run 10 kilometers every day of the week, neither do you have to. If your goal is to be an elite running athlete, then the story is a little bit different, but for most of us, that's just not the case. Last thing we should chat about is runners' nutrition. What should you eat before a run, after a run, and during the rest of the day? It is important to note, however, that every body is different, and what works for one person won't necessarily work for another. Our primary fuel when running is fat. Our body naturally wants to use fat as fuel for long distance, medium to low intensity exercises. It will, however, switch over to using carb for fuel source if the intensity increases. For example, when you're running up a hill. My go-to snack before a run is usually a simple carb, something like a fruit juice, for example. The reason I do this is to make sure my body has some glucose available for when I hit the hills. I know that my body has more than enough fat stored to use as energy, but glucose stores are limited. In the sports science world, we always refer to a term called glucose sparing, meaning you want to run at an intensity just below where your body needs to switch over from using fat as a fuel to glucose as a fuel. The reason we do this is because when our finite supply of glucose is up, we hit that wall. Glucose is the only substrate our brain can use for energy. Therefore, if your glucose is done, you're basically done. Your brain will just stop you from running further. The second thing we do with our running athletes is we make sure that their bodies are optimally adapted to use fat as fuel. Therefore, they would typically be on a low-carb diet throughout most of their season. And they would do plenty of running sessions on a completely empty stomach. This helps train the body to rely on fat stores for fuel. Running can be super cool and fun. All you need is a pair of running shoes and off you go. All these other things just make it better and more enjoyable. On the screen now you will see my full how to run 10 kilometers in 12-week plan. Feel free to screenshot it and enjoy the challenge. If you have any questions, my DMs on Instagram are always open. I really hope you found some value in this video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed it and click on the subscribe button below if you want to see more. I post new videos on here every Monday evening. Until the next one, cheers!